polar ice caps melting and sea level rise. The scientists have observed that the heating due to climate change is happening at much faster rate at the poles than at the equator. From the historic mean temperature, the rise is more than 2.5 degrees centigrade at poles and only about 0.5 degrees at the equator in the same time. As a result of this heating, the polar ice cap at Arctic is melting. This is the ice extent in 1980. This is a picture of 2007 taken by NASA. Scientists believe that at this rate, we will have an ice-free Arctic in summers in the coming times. This will be a disaster for the ecosystem of the Arctic, and many animal species will go extinct. The bigger danger is that this will further increase the rate of Earth's heating by producing the albedo effect. In the albedo effect, white surface reflects more light, so the sun's rays coming down on poles are reflected back by the ice. With ice melting away, we have dark color ocean absorbing the sun's rays and heating the oceans. So, the rate of heating will further increase the ocean's temperature. Higher temperatures are also posing dangers to permafrost. The polar regions are covered with permafrost, which is frozen soil. The permafrost is a storehouse of carbon in the form of methane and peat. Annually, the top layer defrosts and grasses grow, while the permafrost is always frozen. The scientists fear that with the rise in temperature, the permafrost may melt and release huge quantities of methane in the atmosphere, which is a very powerful greenhouse gas. Now let's take a look at the other pole, Antarctica. Antarctica is the largest ice mass in the world and often referred to as a frozen continent. The ice on this continent is land-based and the average thickness is about 1.6 km. It contains 90% of the world ice, and if it melts completely, then imagine the sea level rise. The threat to the continent is very real, was brought about by the event of the breaking of the ice shelf. This rectangle is focusing on a particular point called Larsen Ice Shelf. The height of this ice shelf was 721 feet. Scientists believed that it would take many years before parts of Antarctica broke off and melted. However, the series of satellite images proved otherwise and was of great concern to the scientists. This is the photo of Larsen Ice Shelf on January 31st, 2002. Larsen Ice Shelf, February 17, 2002. In just under 20 days, a large portion of the shelf can be seen to be breaking off. February 23rd, 2002. More of the shelf is breaking. By March 5, the entire shelf had actually broken off and the large chunks of ice were falling into the ocean. This shocked scientists and caused them to investigate the reason for this kind of melting and breaking of ice. Land-based ice raises sea levels when it breaks off into the water and melts, and it produces some dangerous consequences. The rise in sea level will be a threat to island nations like Maldives. The highest point here is at 2.4 meters above the sea level. Entire population is at risk of becoming refugees. Take a look at what would happen in the Bay of Bengal should the sea level rise. Here 60 million people will lose their homes and become environmental refugees. The Sundarbans, a rich wildlife of mangrove reserve, will be completely destroyed. The Sundarbans mangrove have decreased by 20% in the last 40 years. Wetlands such as mangrove make up 6% of the Earth's surface, but store 20% of its carbon. Mangroves are also essential mitigators of soil erosion and act as a buffer against cyclones, storms, sea level rises, and other global warming-induced climate disasters. As discussed before, sea level rise will give rise to climate refugees, which by some estimate is going to be about 100 million people displaced for every 1 meter rise in sea level.